So we have our principals on board, our directors. Tonight we're going to utilize the chat feature. So if you have questions, type them into the chat and we'll answer them as we go. I think that worked out well last time. Okay. So again, hope everyone's doing well, surviving this craziness. And I'll say it on Tuesday when the governor put out his announcement. We all expected it to happen, but I have to admit, when we found as superintendents, we found out probably 5 minutes before, and when he actually made the announcement, it was like this air was just sucked out of the room. We knew it was going to happen, but it was just shocking at the same time. So I'm sure you all felt similar. Not coming back to school this year is just doesn't seem fathomable, but it is what it is, and we're making the most of it, which is great. So I'm going to actually share my screen. I have a PowerPoint I want to walk through, if it lets me. So just an update on our remote learning plans. So I said on Tuesday, Governor Baker ordered all schools to stay closed for the remainder of the school year. He has not made any determination, nor has the Department of Education for summer yet. So we do run several camps and summer programs. They have not given us any indication about the availability of being in our buildings yet. So we do have, and I'll talk about a little bit later, some plans to at least have some summer programs. MCAS has been canceled for the year. Right now they're discussing on how it will take place for next year. They're going to send the superintendents out some surveys on when, for grade 10 anyways, when MCAS should happen, whether it's during the regular session like everyone else, or should it be sooner, maybe in the winter. We're gonna find out more in the next couple of weeks. So our remote learning plans, everyone, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, everyone's doing the best they can with their remote learning plans. I've been impressed with the amount of work kids have been able to do, and our staff, they've done a tremendous job providing instruction and enhancement and enrichment, but also instruction. And it's been amazing to see the things that have been going on. So I'm really, really impressed with the work. I know that at times it gets frustrating because it can be difficult for your student, but also for you as a parent trying to work through your jobs and also trying to support your kids. I hear you, and I feel that. I was on a session today with the Department of Revenue, just learning about impact on financials, and my daughter came in and asked me, "Hey, Dad, do you know anything about inverse trigonometry?" I was like, "Oh boy, all right, I'll start learning that real quick." So I know it's frustrating, but everyone is really doing a good job. Please make sure they stay engaged. And again, I think I've mentioned this 1,000 times. If you have questions or you have concerns, reach out to your teachers, reach out to your principals, reach out to any one of us. We can help provide some support and understanding. And I know for some students, they've been working really hard and are ready to move on faster, and I think that's great, and we'll try to support as best we can. But it's a balancing act that our staff is trying to do. This is something new for all of us, and everyone's really, really, really working hard. Our staff has been phenomenal through this whole process. So thank you, and continue with the hard work. I'm going to have Mrs. Rafferty unmute herself, but she's going to talk a little bit about the Department of Ed. They're going to be providing us with additional guidance on priority standards by subject and grade level. So I'm going to let her chime in.
Thank you, Mr. Morano. I just wanted to give everyone some updates on what we have heard from the commissioner and what we can be expecting. Prior guidance from the commissioner has been to focus on diving deeper into previously taught standards and content. The meeting that we had with the commissioner earlier this week, the commissioner recognizes the need with the closure for the remainder of the school year to provide instruction on standards and content that may not have been taught yet during the school year. So he indicated on Monday that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education will be providing us with some priority standards. Those standards will be broken out by grade level, and the expectation is that districts will target those standards for the remainder of the school year in our remote learning plans. So we are expecting those hopefully tomorrow, if not early next week. We'll start to work with grade level teams, building principals on how to incorporate those priority standards into our remote learning plans. We will also communicate those standards out to families. I wanted to share with you, and I'll put them in the chat as soon as I turn this back over to Mr. Morano, but a couple of resources that we have available to families. One of them is provided by the Department of Education on their family guides to help families understand what students are expected to know and be able to do by the end of each grade. So I'm going to paste those into the chat shortly, and those are available in multiple languages. So for our families who need them in other languages, they are available as well. And then I'm also going to put a link in the chat to the remote learning resource page that we have developed. There are lots of enrichment and supplemental activities, lots of free resources. And as we've been rolling things out, we've put lots of supports on that page. And I want to really encourage families to take advantage. The remote learning plans, there isn't a one size fits all that's going to work for all students, and your students well, and we want to make sure that we're providing you with resources if you feel your student would benefit from something a little different or some enrichment. We want to make sure that we are providing you those options as well. So I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Morano, and I'll paste those resources into the chat for everybody.
Thank you, Mrs. Rafferty.
You're
We're
welcome.
really excited that the department is going to provide us with those priority standards. I think it helps us really pinpoint the standards that we want, that they want us to really buckle down on for the rest of this year. And it'll help give us information the start of next year. So, some things that we're concerned about is where kids are going to land or where they're going to start in 2021. And, by having these priority standards, it gives us the opportunity to really fill in some of those gaps now. So it's a good thing. I'll touch upon this really quick. And for our seniors, I know there's been a lot of questions for our seniors, and it doesn't impact, it may not impact any of you, but we recognize how difficult the situation is for our seniors. I'm going to announce to them at the 6 o'clock session that their last day is going to be May 22nd. So don't tell anybody just yet. I want to surprise them. We had talked about doing it later, and we decided 22nd would be the right time. We're working on plans now for graduation and for awards night. And Mrs. Lafayette will be engaging the parents and students in an open forum next week to get some additional information. But I think it's important that we honor and recognize our seniors for all the hard work and the accomplishments that they have. So I'm sure they're going to be excited. Hopefully. I know this has been tough on them. Quick shout out to our food service director, Liz Bell. I know she's on. She has done an amazing job in coordinating our breakfast and lunches. So breakfast and lunch are still available at no cost to children 18 and under. There's no application or information necessary, and your children do not have to be present. And it's available at BMS on Monday, Wednesday, and starting next week, it'll be on Friday from 11:30 to 1 p.m. So please, 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 if you're in need of some assistance, just head down to the middle school between those times, 11:30 to 1, and they'll supply you with breakfast and lunches. Liz, did you want to chime in at all and say anything? I know that you've been working really hard on this.
Oh, thank you, Superintendent Morano. No, I just want really people to take advantage. Don't question if you should or shouldn't. If you need it, go for it. We're here to help you. And with opening the Friday, we're also providing Saturday and Sunday breakfast and lunch. So you'll be able to get 7 meals a week for your kiddos. So we are happy to help you. Please, please take advantage.
And there's options too, right? There's stuff that they can warm up. There's all different kinds of things that they can.
Correct. There's fresh offerings. There's heat and go, so you can do something later in the week if you choose. And our team has done an amazing job at preparing those. So
Awesome.
If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me directly.
I have seen on Facebook some people have reached out and asked questions. If any parent out there sees those, please refer them to Liz. They can easily email her, and she'll respond back with any information that she has. So yes. Please reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you. So just talk a little bit about some future plans we have. We're working on plans for staff and students to be able to pick up belongings that they may have in school, but also to return some Chromebooks. That's going to happen in the near future. We're working. We talked a little bit yesterday as an admin team on how that would work. Um, we want to make sure that it's safe and that we do it in a way that no one will be exposed to anything. So we're working on that now. Right now, the plan is to start with staff and allow them to get back in the building in a way that's safe next week, and do that over a series of days. And then we'll start talking about students and how we can manage that. We're working on several plans for the extended school year, for our summer school and our camps. Mrs. Lawrence, I know she's on. She can give a little update in a second. But we will be having some programs. We just don't know what they're going to look like. And she's done a great job so far, along with Mrs. Sloboda, in creating options that we can take advantage of. So I don't know if you wanted to mention anything there, Rachel.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Morano. Currently, as you well know, we're waiting for more guidance from the governor's office and from the Department of Education in terms of what their plans are for the future in terms of building access for the summer. Currently, those plans are unknown, so we're putting together different options. One would be to run ESY if we're able to get into the building and all the social distancing regulations and mandates are lifted. We'll run a program similar to what we always have. And we're going to develop some plans to look at, what happens if we can get in the building, but then have to maintain social distance protocols. And also what would happen if we're not allowed to enter into our buildings, and how would we set up a remote ESY program. So we have 3 different options that we're working on, and we're trying to iron out all the particular details around those. And hopefully we're going to get some guidance from the Department of Ed and the governor's office soon, so we can start to solidify some plans.
Great. Why don't you stay on, because the next slide talks a little bit about special education meetings. I know those will be starting soon.
Yes, we have received the go-ahead from the Department of Ed in terms of providing virtual IEP team meetings. The department had wanted all the districts to focus primarily on getting the remote service plans up and running for students who have IEPs, and get those related service providers and special ed services solidified through those remote service plans. And so now that we've accomplished that task, we will be looking at setting up virtual IEP meetings. We have a team chair meeting scheduled for Monday morning, and we'll be providing you with more detailed information on the process for that.
Great, thank you. We also started planning or talking about plans for step-up days so kids are going from 3rd grade into 4th, and from 7th grade into 8th grade, and how that will look. Possibly some type of virtual step-up day, but we'll see what is allowable come towards the summer. We also talked about options for the opening day for 2021. It may and most likely will look different than we've done in the past. So we're trying to anticipate and prepare for whatever options they may be. And just to note, September 14th, that's the marathon actually will be on that day. It's going to be considered a holiday, so there'll be no school on September 14th. As of right now, that's what we were told, or I was told earlier this week. So we're going to readjust our calendars and get those out to everybody in the next couple of weeks with the updated information. And just again, reiterate, we're all doing the best we can. I think, again, I've been really impressed with the work our kids are doing and our staff. Everyone's been working really hard, and we want to thank everyone for their dedication and hard work during this really unprecedented time. I'm going to switch off from my share, and let's see if we have some questions. Family guides. So anybody have any questions that we can answer? And actually, principals, if you have anything you'd like to add, absolutely. Okay, Mr. Cutler, Mrs. Lurie, Mrs. Friedman.
I just want to echo what you had said, Mr. Morano, that we're so pleased with what kids are putting out, how you all are supporting your students. So thank you.
So one question just popped up. Our IEP meeting is going to happen remotely. Yes, that's the plan. Mrs. Lawrence is working on that right now with Mrs. Sloboda and the team chairs, and they'll be scheduling those in the near future. Actually, we talked about next week that you'll start that process, correct?
Sorry, yes, Ms. Rana, we're going to be meeting with the team chairs, and we'll be taking a look at the outstanding IEP meetings that were scheduled just prior to the closure of school that weren't able to occur. And then we'll start to work that, work through that list and then start getting those scheduled. So yeah, within the next few days, probably toward the end of next week, we'll have more definitive information, but the meetings will be held remotely.
Great. Here's two questions. Do you anticipate an increase in Hangout meetings as new curriculum is introduced? And same thing with the question before, will there be more video chats? It's possible. I think so. I think our staff is learning how to use the Hangouts more efficiently and effectively. And we've talked a little bit about it yesterday, and we're going to support our teachers in doing more of them. I know that there was a level of comfort to begin with, but I've been impressed with what they've been doing. So yes, I think there'll be more as we continue. By changes to the 2021 school year start, do you mean starting earlier in August or later in September? No, what I meant was how students will be coming into the building. The commissioner gave us some information that it's possible, depending on where we're at, that you may not be able to have all students in the building at one time. There may have to be some type of staggered start for kids. Will they need to have, or staff, will they need to have masks and gloves? It's those kinds of things, being mindful of protective gear and how many students will be able to have in a classroom at a time if we're at that point come September. Hopefully we're not, but we're just trying to prepare for anything that could come up. Here's a good question. I'm a bit nervous about my third grader not being prepared for fourth grade. So we're doing a lot of work now with our teachers, doing a lot of work now with their kids in preparation, in enrichment and in preparation. And I think having those priority standards that Mrs. Rafferty was talking about earlier is very, very important. And understand that we're here to support our students and all of you. So when we start the new school year, I can envision us having to do some assessments to see where our kids are, and then planning on providing some enrichment opportunities and filling in some of the gaps that they may have. So we're gonna take it one step at a time, and we're not gonna just throw kids into the next grade level and say, all right, let's have at it. We're going to really be mindful and make sure that we do what's necessary to make sure they're where they need to be. I think there are probably kids in the high school, especially those in NHS and NJS, who would be interested in helping with step-up days, even if virtual. Yes, we talked a little bit about that today, and we even talked a little bit about seeing if they would be interested in doing some tutoring for some of the younger kids. So we're going to work with Mrs. Remy on that.
Mr. Morano, there's a question on there about 504 meetings. Will we be able to hold those virtually as well? Mrs. Lawrence, have you heard any guidance on that?
We haven't had any specific guidance on that. I think the initial directive has been to look at the IEP meetings, and then certainly we can look at the 504. But I noticed there's a question above that in terms of evaluation and assessments. If you have a request already in the district that has been acknowledged and all of that, you do not need to request again. Those will just get carried over and put into the system once we return.
Great. Can kids entering kindergarten be evaluated before the start of the school year? Again, I think it depends on where we're at and if that's possible. Is Mrs.
Mr. Morano, I've been meeting with Mrs. Lurie and Mrs. Friedman. We have begun discussions about how we would be able to gather information on our incoming kindergarten students. We typically do a kindergarten screening in June, and given that the schools will be closed through the end of June, that type of a format won't be an option to us. So we have started planning and are looking at other options to get some data on the incoming kindergartners to help us with making placements for the fall. but the typical way that we do the kindergarten screening will have to happen when we come back to school in September.
Great. Mrs. Lawrence, another one for you. The IP meeting's already scheduled for next week. Will those take place as planned, or should we expect a new date?
If you have IEPs that have already been scheduled, they will be held in accordance to the arrangements that have been made with your team.
Great. Here's a really good question. If we do have safety concerns with kids returning to school that leads to a different kind of opening, will the school provide the masks and our gloves that are recommended? That's kind of what we're talking about right now, is looking at what possible PPE, protective gear we would need, and what we would supply to kids and to staff members. So we're in discussions about that right now. I know it seems really early, but I think I'd rather be ahead of the game than trying to scramble later. So we're working on that now. Had a meeting earlier this week with our lead nurse and all the nurses in the district, along with our business manager, Joanne Rebello. And we talked extensively around what would be required, what do we need, and having a protocol and policy in place too for any student or faculty member that may have symptoms. So we're going to have all that in place for you, and we'll make sure you get all that information before the start of next year. Will classroom teacher assignments still be released in June? Yes. Yeah, we'll have that for you in June. Mrs. Lawrence, will IEPs that had already taken place but had not been sent out to be signed be sent now?
Yes, they are being sent out. Mrs. Dintinasanto, one of our secretaries in the special ed office, has been working in the building this past week, getting those IEPs ready to be mailed. So yes, they will be coming.
Thank you. Any talk about virtual graduation for kindergartners? We have not talked about that yet, so I'm glad you brought that up. I'll make sure that that's on our agenda item with our administrators, our elementary principals, for our next meeting next week. We'll provide some guidance on that coming for next week. That's a great question. All right. Any other questions? Any other information anyone's looking for?
Mr. Morano, there's a sub part to that question in regards to evaluation for preschool students. Right
Okay.
now, once again, children turning 3 coming from the EI realm, early intervention services, we have not received specific guidance from either the early education and care or the Department of Education in regards to transitioning our 3-year-olds into the public school setting. But we have a plan in place where that we're working with the IFSP plans that come from EI that tell us a lot about what a child, or the services that a child was receiving under EI, and we're going to be developing remote service plans for those children based upon the information we receive from early intervention. If you happen to have a copy of your child's early intervention plan, please email Mrs. Furman, because oftentimes we do not get them directly from early intervention, and it'd be really helpful if you could provide those to her. So feel free to give her an email and discuss with her any specific questions you have.
Will these decisions be made before the end of school? Example, student placement for next year? Yes. Yeah, that's going to happen before the end of school in June, and that information will be sent out to everyone. Do you know if the ILAs will stay with the same teachers? I don't know that yet. We're going to be working on that for next year. I'm assuming you're asking it. We'll be working on that soon. All right. So again, thank you guys all for coming on, and we end up having 112 participants, which is awesome. Again, really impressed with the level of engagement that our kids are doing. Please, please, please help them and support them through that. And if they're struggling, reach out to us. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And I want to just give Mr. Reed an opportunity to our chairman of the school committee to give some final thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Morano, and great job too to you and your administrative team for the presentation. We appreciate it, and thank you all for making yourselves available for it tonight. I'd also like to thank everybody who attended tonight. Please know that your input is so vital to this whole process and very much appreciated. We want to thank you for all that you're doing to support your students at home, your teachers, and the school district generally. Thank you to our school leaders and our amazing teachers and all of our district employees for all the hard work that you've done to make our remote learning program successful, and for the hard work that you will do for it to continue to be successful through the end of the school year. As Mr. Marno had said, this was kind of a tough week. It was disappointing news to cancel the school year, not unexpected, but nonetheless, it still did hurt. My head told me that was the right decision for all the challenges that would be to bring the kids back to the buildings safely in the short amount of time that there is remaining of the school year relatively. But in our heart, I couldn't help but be, disappointed in thinking of all the special events and experiences that the kids will miss out on for not being together, not being in school. But in light of that, though, I'm very excited about the work that's been done and that Mr. Morano has led to put the kids in a position to be successful in the remainder of the year in the remote learning. So we'll move forward. We know that this isn't easy. We know that there's so many things pulling us all in so many different directions at home, and now you're helping educate your kids at home, and we know that that's a challenge. We appreciate and respect so much your patience and your dedication and your help through this process. And I guess from our perspective in the school committee, please feel free to reach out to us as well with any questions or concerns, or just simply to talk. Okay, again, your input is vital to making it through this. And as I said last time we had one of these, we're here, we're listening, we're committed to supporting you and our students and our staff through this challenging time. And we want to make sure, and we're committed to providing our students with a safe and productive learning experience through this year and all the years that they're in our charge, okay? If we continue to get to work together, I know that we can do that. So thank you. Thank you for so many people calling in. It's so invigorating and so inspiring that there's such large amount of support. We appreciate it. Stay safe and be well. Thank you, Mr. Morano.
Thank you. Someone just put up a great comment. School buildings are closed, but school is not. That is so true.
Exactly.
And, I, from the bottom of my heart, I believe together we'll get through this. This community is incredibly strong, and I'm amazed at the things that have happened. Again, I've been in Bellingham 22 years, and I've seen a lot of things happen over the course of my career. And I always am amazed at how strong this community can be and how you all support each other. It's not like this in every community. So you should be proud of that, and really be something that you should be really proud of and really support. So I'm amazed, and I'm so very honored to be able to be the superintendent in this district. So thank you everybody for participating. I will be posting this on our website along with that little PowerPoint. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out, and we'll go from there. So good luck and take care, and everyone have a great weekend.